Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. And you'll never miss a story again. I still remember the morning she left. Olivia's suitcase rested by the door like it had been waiting there longer than I realized. She moved around the apartment with a strange calmness, brushing her hair, sipping her coffee, avoiding eye contact more than usual. I sat on the edge of the bed, lacing my shoes, watching her out of the corner of my eye, trying to figure out what felt off. "You're sure it's just for the weekend?" I asked, pretending not to care as much as I did. "Your mom's birthday, right?" "Yeah, just a couple days. I promised her I'd help with the garden, and she misses me," Olivia said, smiling, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her voice was flat, rehearsed, like she had been saying it in her head over and over before it came out. I nodded, but something in me felt unsettled. Still, I brushed it off. She kissed me goodbye softly, quickly, and walked out without looking back. That weekend came and went. I texted her like I usually did. "Good morning. Miss you. Call me when you can." Nothing clingy, just us. But she didn't reply. Not that day, not the next. On Monday, I finally called, straight to voicemail. I frowned at the screen. Maybe her phone had died. Maybe she left it at home while helping her mom. That made sense. I told myself to stop being paranoid. But my chest felt heavier with each passing hour. By Tuesday night, my mind was spiraling. I sat in the living room, phone in hand, scrolling back through our messages, her photos, her voice notes. Everything had seemed normal just days ago. We'd been planning our wedding. We were arguing about colors and flowers, and she'd been teasing me about dancing lessons. I sent another message. "Hey, Liv, just want to know you're okay. Starting to get a little worried. Let me know something. Anything." Still nothing. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined her in a hospital, or her car broken down on a road, or worse. But deep down, something darker was starting to claw its way into my thoughts. Something I didn't want to name. I called her mother. "Hi, Mrs. Talbot. Just checking in. Is Olivia around?" There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, she left a few days ago. I thought she was back with you by now." My mouth went dry. "She's not. She said she'd be at your place for the weekend." Mrs. Talbot's voice softened. "I haven't seen her since last week. She said she had to take care of something in the city. Is everything okay?" I lied. Yeah, just mixed signals, I guess." But everything was not okay. I hung up and stared at the ceiling in silence. It was like the air had been sucked out of the room. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Just that gnawing question repeating in my head. Where is she? I started noticing things I hadn't before. Her drawer in the dresser, half empty. Her laptop was gone, her favorite jacket, the one she wore when it rained, not on its hook. I checked her social media. Nothing new, no posts, no stories. But one thing stood out. She had unfollowed me and removed our engagement photos. My hands trembled as I stared at her profile. What the hell was going on? I didn't know where to go, who to ask. Her friends were polite but vague. "She's just figuring things out," one said. Another told me, "I'm sure she'll reach out soon." But no one gave me a straight answer. No one would tell me where she was. I became obsessed. I started checking her old posts, reading between every line, replaying every conversation we had the week before she left. I kept wondering, did I miss something? Did I do something wrong? Days turned into weeks. I stopped going to work. I told my boss I was sick, but the truth was, I couldn't focus. I couldn't think about anything except Olivia. Then one night, just as I was about to fall asleep, I got a text, blocked number. "Don't look for me. I need time. Please respect that." No explanation, no name, but I knew it was her. My heart dropped. I called back immediately. It didn't ring, already disconnected. I stared at that message all night. Don't look for me. That's what people say when they're hiding something, or someone. I hated myself for thinking it, but it was impossible not to wonder, was she with someone else? I tried to dismiss it. Olivia wasn't that kind of person. We'd been through so much. She was kind, loyal. She wouldn't just vanish, would she? One night, about 3 weeks after she disappeared, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in years, Nathan. We weren't close, just mutual acquaintances from college. But his name showing up on my phone after all this time felt too random to ignore. His message said, "Hey man, sorry if this is weird. I saw Olivia downtown yesterday. She was with someone. Thought you should know." My fingers froze. I typed back, "Who was she with?" Nathan replied, "Pretty sure it was her ex. Ryan, I think. Tall guy. They looked close." I didn't respond. I couldn't. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I sat there in complete silence, unable to process what I'd just read. Ryan. The name made my stomach churn. Olivia had told me about him before. The one who broke her heart. The one who left her when she needed him most. She'd said she never wanted to see him again. So why now? Why him? I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. My heart felt like it was beating in the wrong rhythm. Every thought I had was tangled in images of her with him, laughing, holding hands, maybe even kissing. While I was here falling apart, she was, what? Starting over? I needed answers. I started going to the places she used to love. Our favorite coffee shop, the park near the lake, the bookstore with the creaky wooden floors. I sat there for hours, hoping she might walk in, hoping for a glimpse, a sign, anything. But she didn't come. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I messaged Ryan. I kept it simple. "We need to talk. It's about Olivia." He replied the next morning. "Meet me at the Riverside Cafe, noon." I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know if I wanted to punch him or beg him to tell me the truth. But one thing was certain. I couldn't keep living in the dark. The next day, I showed up early. The cafe was quiet, nearly empty. I chose a seat by the window. My palms were sweating. My heart was pounding like a drum in my chest. 15 minutes later, he walked in. Ryan hadn't changed much. He was taller than I remembered, confident, clean-shaven, like someone who wasn't carrying guilt. He saw me and nodded, sat down across from me. We stared at each other for a second before I spoke. "Where is she?" Ryan sighed. "I don't think this is a good idea." "Too late for that," I snapped. "Just tell me the truth." He leaned back, crossed his arms. "She reached out to me a few weeks ago. Said she was confused. Said she needed space." My chest tightened. "Why you?" He shrugged. "I don't know. History, maybe. Unfinished business." I clenched my fists. "Are you with her?" He hesitated. "That was all I needed." My voice broke. "We were getting married." "I know," Ryan said quietly. "She told me. She's not trying to hurt you. She doesn't know what she wants right now." I stood up. I couldn't sit there any longer. "She could have just told me," I said, my voice shaking. "She could have looked me in the eye and told me it was over." "I'm sorry," he said. But I didn't want his apology. I wanted her. I walked out of that cafe and into the cold afternoon air. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to move. I needed to find her. Because this wasn't how it ends. Not with a text, not with silence, not without answers. I didn't sleep the night after meeting Ryan. I just sat in the dark of my living room, staring at the walls, reliving every second of our conversation. His words repeated in my head on a loop. "She's confused. She doesn't know what she wants. Unfinished business." No matter how many times I replayed it, it didn't make sense. Olivia and I had built something real, something steady, deep, and full of memories. We planned our life together. We dreamed of a house, kids, traveling together. And now, she was out there with someone she had once described as a mistake? Someone who had hurt her before? I kept thinking maybe she was going through something. Maybe this was just a temporary storm. But even storms have warnings. Olivia had left me with silence. That was what broke me the most. How quickly she became a stranger. The next morning, I called her again. I didn't expect her to answer, and she didn't. But I left a message anyway. "Olivia, please, I don't know what's happening. If you need time, I'll give you time, but please don't shut me out. Just let me know you're okay. That's all I ask." I hung up and stared at the phone. The seconds ticked by. No callback, no text, just nothing. Days passed like fog. I went back to work, but my body was just filling space. My coworkers noticed. My manager asked if everything was okay, and I gave her the same tired line, just dealing with some personal stuff. But what do you say to someone when your world quietly falls apart and the person who promised to be your forever disappears into someone else's arms? I tried moving on. I really did. I stopped checking her social media. I deleted our texts. I shoved our engagement photos into a drawer, but I still caught myself looking at the empty seat beside me at dinner. Still turned over at night expecting to feel her there, breathing soft against my shoulder. One evening I walked into our closet and found her dress, the one she wore to our engagement party. A soft, light blue thing that she swore she only wore for me because I said she looked like the sky in it. I sat on the floor and held it, pressing it to my face like an idiot, remembering the way she smiled at me that night, the way she leaned into me like nothing else in the world existed. I felt pathetic, but I couldn't stop loving her, even after all this. I started asking around quietly. I knew someone who worked at a real estate office. I asked them delicately if Olivia had been seen looking at places. It felt intrusive, but I was desperate. A few days later, I got a message back. She's renting a short-term condo in Old Town. Moved in about 3 weeks ago. Old Town, the artsy side of the city, the place she used to say she could never afford. But she's there now, with him? I didn't know what I would do with that information. I told myself I wouldn't go. I told myself I'd respect her wish to be left alone. But then Saturday came, and I found myself walking down those cobblestone streets, past the little art galleries and wine shops, searching building numbers until I found hers. I didn't go in. I just stood across the street, watching, waiting. A few minutes later, the door opened. She stepped out. My heart nearly stopped. There she was. Her hair was tied back, simple and effortless. She wore a light sweater, jeans, and that pair of boots I gave her last Christmas. She looked the same, like no time had passed, like everything was normal. But it wasn't. Because right behind her, Ryan walked out. He was laughing at something. She turned to him, smiling, really smiling. She touched his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. My fists clenched in my coat pockets. I wanted to shout her name, to walk across the street and demand an explanation, but I didn't. I just watched as they walked away together, their shoulders brushing like magnets pulling them closer. I waited until they disappeared around the corner, then slowly walked back home. I don't even remember how I got there. My head was somewhere else entirely. That night I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just sat down and started writing. I poured everything out, my anger, my confusion, my heartbreak. I wrote her a letter I knew I'd probably never send. You should have told me. I deserved that. Not because I needed closure, but because we built something together. I gave you every part of me. I believed in us more than I believed in anything, and you just walked away, like it all meant nothing. I stared at the words, then closed the notebook. A few more weeks passed. I started therapy, something I never thought I'd need. Talking helped, but some days were harder than others. Healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes I felt okay. Other times I'd hear a song or smell her perfume on someone in passing and feel like I was unraveling all over again. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a message from her. It was short. Can we talk? I didn't know what to feel. My hands trembled as I stared at the words. My heart was racing. Was this an apology? A goodbye? Did I even want to hear what she had to say? Still, I replied, when and where? She gave me a location, an old bookstore cafe we used to visit on rainy days. I showed up early. I couldn't help myself. I sat by the window, sipping cold coffee, trying to steady my breathing. Then she walked in. She looked different, tired, nervous, like she hadn't slept much either. Hey, she said softly. I nodded. Hey. She sat across from me, her hands folded on the table like she was bracing herself. I don't even know where to start, she said. Try the truth, I replied, my voice calm but sharp. That would be a good place. She looked down. I didn't plan for it to happen this way. But it did. She nodded slowly. Yeah, it did. There was a long silence. I got scared, she finally said. The wedding, the future, everything was moving so fast. I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. You were the one pushing for a spring wedding, I reminded her. You were the one picking out venues. I know, she said, and I wasn't faking it. I loved you. I don't know, I was happy. But something in me kept pulling away. I didn't understand it. So you ran to him, I said. She winced. I didn't mean to reconnect with Ryan, it just happened. He reached out, and I was in a place where I was doubting everything. I didn't go looking for it, but when I saw him, I leaned back, shaking my head. You saw your past and threw away your future. It wasn't like that, she whispered. It was exactly like that. She looked like she wanted to cry, but I didn't care. I was past tears. I was past sympathy. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, but you did. You hurt me in the worst possible way. Not just by leaving, but by hiding, by lying, by letting me sit in silence while you made new memories with someone else. She looked down, wiping at her eyes. I didn't reach out because I knew if I saw you, I wouldn't be able to go through with it, she said. I would have come back, and I wasn't ready for that. I needed to be sure. And now, I asked? She looked up, her eyes rimmed with red. I don't know. That was the final blow. You don't know. I stood up. You made your choice the second you walked out that door without saying a word. You don't get to come back and say you're unsure. That's not how love works. I started to leave, then paused. I deserved better, I said. You may not know what you want, but I do. I want someone who doesn't hesitate. Someone who chooses me, fully, completely, without needing to run off and test the waters with an old flame. She didn't say anything as I walked away, just sat there, shrinking into her chair like she was trying to disappear. I stepped out into the cold air, letting it sting my face. It was over. Really finally over. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Clarity. Maybe even a little bit of peace. It had been 3 months since I walked out of that cafe. 3 months since Olivia sat across from me, full of half-answers and apologies that came too late. I didn't expect the pain to disappear overnight. I knew heartbreak had its own schedule, cruel and unpredictable. Some days were tolerable, quiet and still, like the world had accepted the new shape of my life. Other days were loud, filled with echoes of her laughter, of memories I hadn't invited in. I didn't block her. I didn't erase her number, but I didn't reach out either. I think we both knew there was nothing left to say. And silence, ironically, became the only honest part of what we had left. Therapy helped, slowly. The first few sessions were rough. Just me sitting there, explaining how I had been blindsided by the person I trusted the most. But over time, the fog began to lift. I started understanding that love, real love, is never one-sided. No matter how tightly you hold on, if the other person lets go, you fall. I started going to the gym more, waking up early, cooking real meals instead of microwaving frozen dinners. I met friends again, laughed at stupid things. It wasn't about moving on quickly. It was about rebuilding, brick by brick, one honest step at a time. But then, one morning, just as the warmth of spring began to creep back into the city, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated for a second, then answered. Hello? A long pause. Hey, she said. Her voice was soft, familiar. Olivia. Yeah. Sorry to call out of the blue. I didn't respond. I didn't know how to. There was a weight in her voice I hadn't heard before. Not confusion, not guilt. Something different. Something quieter. I'm not asking for anything, she continued. I've been doing a lot of thinking. I'm sure you have, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I'm not with him, she said quickly, like she knew that was the question sitting between us. I didn't ask. I know. I just wanted you to know. There was a long silence. I've been in therapy too, she said, almost nervously, trying to figure out why I blew up something good, something real. I stayed quiet. I realized I didn't leave because of you, she went on. I left because I was afraid that I wasn't enough. That one day I'd mess it all up and disappoint you, and it was easier to run than to face that. That's not how love works, I said, repeating the same words I told her that day in the cafe. I know that now, she whispered. I sat on the edge of my couch, fingers wrapped tightly around the phone. I had imagined this moment a dozen different ways. Angry versions, tearful versions, fantasies where she begged and I turned away triumphant. But this felt real, simple, quiet. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she said. Not because I want something from you, but because you deserve to hear it from me. You were good to me. You loved me the way I always hoped someone would. I didn't know how to receive it. I closed my eyes. Her words, genuine as they were, felt like they were peeling open old wounds. Not because they were cruel, but because they were honest. I appreciate you saying that, I said finally. A beat passed. I hope you're okay, she added. I hope you're happy. Or getting there. I'm working on it, I said truthfully. Good, she replied. Then quietly, I won't bother you again. The call ended without goodbyes. I sat still for a while, letting the silence settle. Something shifted in me that day. Not closure, exactly, but something close to it. A final thread loosening. The last bit of emotional weight beginning to lift. Weeks passed. I focused more on the things that made me feel alive. I started volunteering at a local youth center, teaching kids how to build with their hands. Basic woodworking, old school stuff. The smiles on their faces, the pure joy of creating something from scratch, reminded me there was still good in the world. That not all connections end in pain. One afternoon, while packing up tools, a coworker at the center nudged me and said, "That woman over there's been asking about you." I turned and saw a woman standing by the entrance, holding a small potted plant. She looked unfamiliar at first, until she smiled. "Hi," she said, stepping forward. "I heard you're the guy who makes birdhouses better than anyone else in town." I laughed, a real surprised laugh. I guess that's me. Her name was Claire. She'd just moved to the area. New job, new city, starting over. We talked for a bit, easy, light conversation. Nothing forced. No weight of past heartbreak hovering over us. She asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. We met that weekend, then again the following week. There was no rush, no pressure. Just two people getting to know each other, layer by layer. With Claire, everything felt calm, steady, the way it should have felt all along. One evening, while walking her to her car after dinner, she paused and looked at me. "You seem like someone who's been through a lot," she said, "but you don't carry it like a burden." I smiled. "That took time," she nodded. "I'm glad you made it through." So was I. One night, months later, I opened that same notebook I used to write Olivia the letter I never sent. I flipped through the pages, reading all the heartbreak and confusion I once lived inside. Then, I turned to a new page and wrote something different. I survived loving the wrong person. I survived being left without answers. And somehow, I still believe in love. Not the dramatic whirlwind kind that sweeps you off your feet, but the kind that walks beside you, steady and kind, asking nothing more than honesty. I looked up and smiled to myself. Life doesn't always give you the ending you expect, but sometimes the ending you never saw coming is the one you needed all along. That night, I sent Claire a message. "Hope you're free this weekend. I want to show you the garden behind the community center. I just built a bench there. Figured it could use some company." She replied instantly, "I'd love that." And for the first time, in what felt like forever, I knew, really knew, I was going to be okay. I had found myself again. Not through someone else, but through the strength it took to heal. Through every broken piece, I learned to pick up and put back together. The past didn't own me anymore. And the future? It looked pretty bright.